Lecture 3, The Reality of the Unseen. Were one asked to characterize the life of religion in the broadest and most general terms possible, one might say that it consists of the belief that there is an unseen order, and that our supreme good lies in harmoniously adjusting ourselves thereto. This belief and this adjustment are the religious attitude in the soul. I wish during this hour to call your attention to some of the psychological peculiarities of such an attitude as this, or belief in an object which we cannot see. All our attitudes, moral, practical, or emotional, as well as religious, are due to the objects of our consciousness. The things which we believe to exist, whether really or ideally, along with ourselves. Such objects may be present to our senses, or they may be present only to our thought. In either case, they elicit from us a reaction, and the reaction, due to things of thought, is notoriously, in many cases, as strong as that due to sensible presences, maybe even stronger. The memory of an insult may make us angrier than the insult did when we received it. We are frequently more ashamed of our blunders afterward than we were at the moment of making them. And in general, our whole higher prudential and moral life is based on the fact that material sensations actually present may have a weaker influence on our action than ideas of remoter facts. The more concrete objects of most men's religion, the deities whom they worship, are known to them only in idea. It has been vouchsafed, for example, that to very few Christian believers to have had a sensible vision of their Savior, though enough appearances of this sort are on record by way of miraculous exception to merit our attention later. The whole force of the Christian religion, therefore, so far as belief in the divine personages determines the prevalent attitude of the believer, is in general exerted by the instrumentality of pure ideas, of which nothing in the individual's past experience directly serves as a model. But in addition to these ideas of the more concrete religious objects, religion is full of abstract objects which prove to have an equal power. God's attributes, as such, his holiness, his justice, his mercy, his absoluteness, his infinity, his omniscience, his triunity, the various mysteries of the redemptive process, the operation of the sacraments, etc., have proved fertile wells of inspiring meditation for Christian believers. We shall see later that the absence of definite sensible images is positively insisted on by the mystical authorities in all religions as the sine qua non of a successful orison, or contemplation of the higher divine truths. Such contemplations are expected, and abundantly verify the expectation, as we shall also see, to influence the believer's subsequent attitude very powerfully for the good. Immanuel Kant held a curious doctrine about such objects of belief as God, the design of creation, the soul, its freedom, and the life hereafter. These things, he said, are properly not objects of knowledge at all. Our conceptions always require the sense content to work with, and as the words soul, God, immortality cover no distinctive sense content whatsoever, it follows that, theoretically speaking, they are words devoid of any significance. Yet, strangely enough, they have a definite meaning for our practice. We can act as if there were a God, feel as if we were free, consider nature as if she were full of special designs, lay plans as if we were to be immortal. And we find that these words do make a genuine difference in our moral life. Our faith that these unintelligible objects actually exist proves thus to be a full equivalent in the praktischer Hinsicht, as Kant calls it, or from the point of view of our action for a knowledge of what they might be in case they were permitted positively to conceive them. So we have the strange phenomenon, as Kant assures us, of a mind believing with all its strength in the real presence of a set of things, no one of which it can form any notion whatsoever. My My object, in thus recalling Kant's doctrine to your mind, is not to express any opinion as to the accuracy of this particularly uncouth part of his philosophy, but only to illustrate the characteristic of human nature which we are considering, by an example so classical in its exaggeration. The sentiment of reality can indeed attach itself so strongly to our object of belief that our whole life is polarized through and through, so to speak, by its sense of the existence of the things believed in. And yet that thing, for purpose of definite description, can hardly be said to be present to our mind at all. It is as if a bar of iron, without touch or sight, with no representative faculty whatever, might nevertheless be strongly endowed with an inner capacity for magnetic feeling, and as if, through various arousals of its magnetism by magnets coming and going in its neighborhood, it might be consciously determined to different attitudes and tendencies. Such a bar of iron could never give you an outward description of the agencies that had the power of stirring it so strongly, yet of their presence and of their significance for its life it would be intensely aware through every fiber of its being. It is not only the ideas of pure reason, as Kant styled them, that have this power of making us vitally feel presences that we are impotent articulately to describe. All sorts of higher abstractions bring with them the same kind of impalpable appeal. Remember those passages from Emerson which I read at my last lecture? The whole universe of concrete objects, as we know them, swims not only for such a transcendentalist writer, but for all of us in a wider and higher universe of abstract ideas, that it lends its significance. As time, space, and ether soak through all things, so, we feel, do abstract and essential goodness, beauty, strength, significance, justice, soak through all things good, strong, significant, and just. Such ideas, and others equally abstract, form the background for all our facts, the fountainhead of all the possibilities we conceive of. They give its nature, as we call it, to every special thing. Everything we know is what it is by sharing in the nature of one of these abstractions. We can never look directly at them, for they are bodiless and featureless and footless, but we grasp all other things by their means. And in handling the real world, we should be stricken with helplessness in just so far forth as we might lose these mental objects, these adjectives and adverbs and predicates and heads of classification and conception. This absolute determinability of our mind by abstractions is one of the cardinal facts in our human constitution. Polarizing and magnetizing us as they do, we turn towards them and from them. We seek them, hold them, hate them, bless them, just as if they were so many concrete beings. And beings they are. Beings as real in the realm which they inhabit as the changing things of sense are in the realm of space. Plato gave so brilliant and impressive a defense of this common human feeling that the doctrine of the reality of abstract objects has been known as the Platonic theory of ideas ever since. Abstract beauty, for example, is for Plato a perfectly definite individual being of which the intellect is aware as of something additional to all the perishing beauties of the earth. The true order of going, he says, in the often quoted passage in his Banquet, is to use the beauties of earth as steps along which one mounts upward for the sake of that other beauty, going from one to two, and from two to all fair forms, and from fair forms to fair actions, and from fair actions to fair notions, until from fair notions he arrives at the notion of absolute beauty, and at last knows what the essence of beauty is. In our last lecture, we had a glimpse of the way in which a Platonizing writer like Emerson may treat the abstract divineness of things, the moral structure of the universe, as a fact worthy of worship. In those various churches without a God, which today are spreading through the world under the name of ethical societies, we have a similar worship of the abstract divine, the moral law believed in as an ultimate object. Science, in many minds, is genuinely taking the place of a religion. Where this is so, the scientist treats the laws of nature as objective facts to be revered. A brilliant school of interpretation of Greek mythology would have it that in their origin, the Greek gods were only half metaphoric, personifications of those great spheres of abstract law and order into which the natural world falls apart. The sky sphere, the ocean sphere, the earth sphere, and the like. Just as even now, we may speak of the smile of the morning, the kiss of the breeze, or the bite of the cold without really meaning that these phenomena of nature actually wear a human face.